Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about subscription meal kit services. So I know a lot of you are probably spending a lot more time at home than you're used to. I know I certainly am. Ever since I moved here to Charleston about a year ago, I've just been go, go, go. I really haven't spent that much time at home. So it's been a huge change of pace for me. Luckily, Charleston is so beautiful and there are a lot of things that you can do here that don't require seeing other people, like running the Ravenel Bridge, which I've done a couple times, going paddle boarding. So lots of fun outdoorsy things, and the weather has been quite nice, but it is supposed to get down into the 60s, which, you know, we're spoiled, but that's a little cold for here, and rain a little bit this week. So I'm looking forward to working on some projects here in my apartment that I haven't had a chance to get around to since I moved here, especially working on my room and organization, because I still have things that I haven't unpacked, even though I flew here with one suitcase, so that's literally crazy, and it's been 10 months. But I'm kind of figuring things out with my room. I'm excited to finally get some decor up on the walls, hopefully order some curtains, and things like that. It definitely makes it more difficult that I can't just go to TJ Maxx and, you know, pick out what I want, but it is nice to just kind of slow down and spend some time at home. But anyways, that might be why a couple of you might be thinking about subscription meal kit services. I know I've kind of looked into it as well, and around the holidays they were all doing some really incredible deals. You know, your first box free, or you know, $75 off your first 4 boxes, and things like that. So I ended up signing up for HelloFresh. I got $75 off my first 4 boxes. So I think the first box was like $10 for 4 meals, which was pretty good. And then my next box was like $25, something like that. So it took a little bit off each box. So I got to try a couple different recipes. It is normally one of the more expensive meal kit services. So it comes in around like $7.50 per serving, which is really expensive if you ask me. I know, like, that is less than I would spend on ordering takeout or picking up food from a restaurant, but when I'm cooking at home, I try to keep it like below $5 per meal, just because I'm one person, you know. I'm not trying to spend my whole paycheck on just feeding myself at home. So, you know, when I do go out, I like to spend a little bit more, but I do feel like paying full price for HelloFresh is a little bit more than what I would be looking to spend. So that's kind of what I wanted to make this video, to give you an idea of if it is worth it, if it's something you're thinking about, what are kind of the pros and cons of it before you actually end up committing to purchasing it, because it is pretty expensive. There are so many subscription services out there, so if it is something you're interested in, I would say there's one out there for you. I know EveryPlate and Dinnerly are probably like the least expensive ones. I think they are like $4.50 or so per meal, which is not bad. Definitely a lot more affordable than HelloFresh, but I've heard the portions are just a little bit smaller, fewer ingredients, which also means it's easier. So Sunbasket is, you know, geared more towards like organic and sustainable, which I love too, but they are even more pricey than HelloFresh. I think Blue Apron is more on the higher end as well. So there's quite a few different services. HelloFresh is kind of like the OG, the most well-known. So I kind of wanted to start there. But without any further ado, let me kind of get into the pros and cons of HelloFresh. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with the pros of HelloFresh, which the first one is definitely important in a time like this. Obviously, you do not have to go to the grocery store at all to be able to make these meals. Keep in mind that no matter how many meals you order per week, you will still have to, buy groceries for breakfast and lunch if you're gonna have this for dinner, or if you do what I did, I got 2 meals per week, and since I'm one person and each meal has 2 servings, I would have it for dinner the night that I cooked, and then I would bring it for lunch the next day. But obviously, that's 2 dinners and 2 lunches per week, so you obviously will have to go grocery shopping for all your other meals, but it does save you a trip to the grocery store because it includes every little thing that you could possibly need, no matter how small. The only things that it will assume that you have is like salt and pepper, and certain utensils that I definitely didn't have. I asked everybody at work and all of my friends if they had a potato masher, and nobody did, so I ended up having to use a fork for this meal over here, since it had mashed potatoes. So definitely when you're choosing your meals, just make sure you have everything as far as utensils, salt and pepper, that they would assume that you already have. But if it requires, even like a tablespoon of vinegar, they'll give you a little bottle, so you don't have to worry about having those things on hand, which is really nice. So the convenience of not having to go to the grocery store is definitely a pro. Okay, so another pro of HelloFresh is that it helps you try different types of cuisines without having to really buy into all the ingredients that you would need. So I really tried to pick recipes that required a lot of ingredients that I don't have. Like, for example, the beef bulgogi bowls. This was one of my favorite recipes out of the ones that I tried. But since this is an Asian cuisine and I don't typically keep things like sesame seeds and bulgogi sauce, scallions, different sauces like that, and since they gave you a little bottle instead of having to go out and buy an entire bottle of them, which can be upwards of like $10 depending on what the sauce or the condiment is. So that is really nice. I actually ended up loving this recipe, and I still make this one to this day. So I know that since I liked it, it was worth it to go out and purchase those things, but it's a nice way to try out different types of cuisine before you actually have to make that financial commitment to go and buy all of the ingredients in bulk, especially if they're perishable items that will go bad if you don't end up liking them. So definitely trying new cuisines is a huge pro. Okay, so another huge pro of HelloFresh is the portion control and calorie counts. Now, some subscription services are more tailored to people with specific dietary needs, if you have to watch your sugar or your carbs, or you need a gluten-free diet. HelloFresh isn't super accommodating for those things. I don't have any dietary restrictions really, so that was totally fine for me, but I know some of my friends that are vegetarian. I know you can make your HelloFresh boxes vegetarian, but certain other dietary restrictions, it's not the best. But each recipe does tell you the calorie count down here, and the portions are super easy to tell because it's only 2 servings, so you can split everything in half. If you have a partner to eat with, unlike me, you can just split it between the 2 of you, or what I do is I pack it into Tupperware for lunch the next day, so it's really easy to know exactly how many calories you're eating. Everything is pre-portioned out. For me, a lot of times, if I am making a normal recipe that serves 4 to 6 people, it's hard for me to tell exactly if I'm eating a single serving or a double serving, and how many calories that would actually have. So it was really nice to just not have to worry about it, serve half of the meal on my plate, and know exactly what I was eating. Okay, so the last pro is that they come with these recipe cards, which are super easy to follow. A lot of the less expensive meal kit delivery services don't come with these cards, which I actually don't mind for the sustainability aspect of it. I did actually end up using the HelloFresh app at times to go through the recipes. I liked that because the screen only showed like one direction at a time, which was helpful for me because I always like to skip ahead and then I start doing things out of order. So it just helped me focus on one task at a time. But these are super nice because if you don't have a lot of cookbooks, which I don't because I'm like, oh, I can just go on Pinterest and look up recipes, but then you end up scrolling through like 10 paragraphs of like a blog you don't care about just to try to find the ingredients list, and then there's so many ads that you keep losing your place. So sometimes it's nice to just have your card right here, so you don't have to keep looking on your phone or laptop and getting distracted by notifications and things like that, because cooking is supposed to be like a relaxing experience, and these recipe cards definitely help with that. Okay, so next I'll discuss some of the cons of HelloFresh. Overall, I did really like it, but there are some cons to think about before you make the financial commitment. Although it's not that big of a commitment because you could really do it for 1 week and then cancel. So I'm making it a bigger deal than it is. You're not like selling your life away, but it is a lot of money for a lot of people, me included. So just some things to think about while you're making your decision. First con obviously is the price. We discussed this. It is quite expensive compared to just buying your groceries at the grocery store and cooking yourself, but arguably the convenience is worth it. I personally like going to the grocery store because I end up getting a bunch of stuff that I didn't know I needed, like ice cream and pizza. So it is probably a good thing that I don't get to go to the grocery store, but it's good for the soul sometimes to just like walk through the aisles and like pick out your snackaroos and just have a good time. So you decide whether or not going to the grocery store is a pro or a con. So another con to think about is that there are only a certain amount of recipes available each week to choose from. So if you are a pickier eater, there is a possibility that you won't like any of the recipes. They do give you plenty of time to log in and see what the recipes are, and then you can either take the chef's selection, which is 2 recipes that they've picked for you based on your preferences, or you can choose your recipes, or you can skip that week. So they do make it pretty easy, but you have to remember to log in. If you do sign up, I would recommend enabling the push notifications on the app because it'll notify you when it's time to go in and pick your meals for the next week. I ended up loving every single recipe that I picked. And I picked all recipes that were not similar to anything I've made before. They have a lot that are like pasta, so you have to keep that in mind, that that's something that's pretty easy to make on your own. So maybe don't pick the easy recipes that you've already mastered, or you already have all those items in your pantry, because then it won't really be worth it. So I tried Mexican pork street corn tacos, because I make tacos all the time, but I've never done pork tacos, so those were really good. I did figgy balsamic pork, which was really good. I've never cooked pork at home before, so it was nice to have like step-by-step directions and an idea of what to do with it. Beef bulgogi bowls we talked about. I still make that recipe all the time. Teriyaki steak with wasabi mashed potatoes. The sauce on this was so good. HelloFresh does make their own sauces, so some of those are hard to say goodbye to. And then I did some enchiladas because I've never made those before. And then this recipe got all messed up when I was cooking, but honey butter barbecue pork cutlets with sweet potato, which was also really good. So don't get me wrong, the recipes are delicious, but there's only a set number to choose from each week, so it does make it a little tricky if you're more of a picky eater. Okay, so the last con would definitely be the time that it takes. So they give you an estimation of how long each recipe is going to take, and you can actually see that before you choose the recipe. So I tended to pick ones that sounded interesting and took the least time. And this is where being single comes in, because a lot of the recipes will tell you to chop vegetables while you cook the chicken, or you know, do a lot of multitasking, which is not humanly possible for one person to do. So I think they definitely assume that you have like a sous chef or a boyfriend or something, which I have neither. So it definitely made it take a lot longer for me to actually do these recipes, especially this chicken enchiladas recipe. Look, it says that it's supposed to take 5 minutes of prep time, but it wants you to, the first step itself took me like 30 minutes just to wash all the produce, chop it up into tiny little pieces, cut the chicken, cook the chicken before it even goes in the oven. So it's just, the time that they estimate is not very accurate, especially if you're not as comfortable in the kitchen. So definitely something to think about, because it will take a lot longer than you're thinking. Especially because you don't really get to choose when your box comes. I know when I signed up, Tuesday was the only option, when that is normally a very busy day at work for me, and I usually get home late. So if I get home at 7 and my box is there waiting, a lot of times the produce and the perishable items are kind of already on their way out, so you can't really wait until the next day to cook your recipe, because then you still have another one. So it's kind of a big time commitment when, you know, your life is a little bit unpredictable and you might not have all that time that specific day to cook it. So that's definitely another thing to think about. Okay, so overall, would I recommend HelloFresh? If you are a couple or a family and you're looking for new recipes, something new to try, and you don't have time to spend hours on Pinterest looking for recipes and go to the grocery store, yes, I would definitely recommend it. It makes things a lot easier and kind of gives you new inspiration to try new recipes, which is really fun. If you are a single lady like me, I probably wouldn't recommend it, just because of the time it takes and the cost. It is nice to, you know, have a smaller portion for recipes and have everything measured out for you, but I actually like going to the grocery store, and I think the recipes that they have are a little bit too involved for what I would want for like a weeknight. You know, maybe on the weekend or something, if I don't have anything to do, these would be good recipes, but it's hard to predict when that will happen, and when your box comes every week, it's just too hard to predict that in advance. So with that being said, I may go ahead and try Dinnerly or Every Plate, because those are a little bit less expensive and a little less involved. So let me know if you'd like to see a video comparison of those subscription services, because it is something that I'd like to try out and kind of see which one is better and suits my lifestyle better. Also, let me know if there's any other videos that you'd like to see. Like I said, will be home for the foreseeable future, so I have a couple great videos planned. Obviously, a lot of the ones that I had planned about going to Costa Rica and all of those fun things are no longer happening, so I'd love to hear what you guys want to see next. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Leave a comment down below if you're going to try HelloFresh, or if you've tried any other subscription services, and what you think. All right, bye guys.